This year's ThinkPad X1 Carbon Generation 12 is a complete redesign. It's got a smaller, lighter chassis, a bright, vibrant OLED display. It's got tons of changes throughout, which I'm going to walk you through today, and it's got Intel's new Core Ultra Media Lake processor. That means you should get more performance and significantly better graphics. Look, I value your time, so here's the skinny. This year's X1 Carbon is a big improvement for the users that it's designed for, those using it for lightweight business tasks, PowerPoint presentations, writing documents, and that sort of thing. For people like you, this laptop is even more portable, its screen is significantly better, and there are other improvements. But there are two massive issues with this laptop. One, at this laptop's current MSRP of well over $2,000, you can buy other laptops that get you 80 to 90% of what this one does for a third the price. Check out all our recommendations on our new website. And two, programmers, this laptop isn't powerful enough to be a good recommendation for you. I know you guys love ThinkPads, but you really should look elsewhere. Alright. If you want to know why I came to these conclusions, here's the rest of the video. The laptop's chassis is new this year. It is smaller and lighter than prior years. You definitely notice that the older model is deeper than this new one when you place the laptops on top of each other. There is a new lip above the display that makes it very easy to open the lid. It reminds me of the ones Lenovo uses on the Yoga range. And the hinge allows the display to go all the way back. The laptop continues to look professional and understated, and the smaller bezels around the screen and redesigned ThinkPad logo makes the laptop look more modern. The laptop has a nice luxurious soft touch feel to it, and the material used is quite fingerprint resistant. Apple wishes they used this coating on their darker coloured laptops. Now, there is some screen flex and minimal keyboard deck flex, but overall it's a pretty well built laptop. If you flip over the laptop, the retail model that we purchased has a giant sticker on the bottom warning you not to eat the battery.
How many businessmen are eating batteries that they need to put that there?
Now, last year's X1 Carbon was already one of the lightest 14-inch laptops out there at 2.6 pounds. This year's smaller model is even lighter at 2.4, which is fantastic, super portable. Continuing with the changes, you will notice there are no speaker grills to the left and right side of the keyboard deck. You may think this affects sound quality, but the speakers in this year's model are actually night and day better. They are so much louder. They are also clearer with higher fidelity. These are some of the best speakers available in a small laptop. When it comes to the display, finally, we have a better one included by default. For the last several years, ThinkPad X1 Carbons have come with either Full HD panels, which are too low resolution for a 14-inch premium laptop, or 4K panels that were stunning to look at but chewed through battery life. There has been a customization available to upgrade to an OLED panel for a while now, but I've never been able to get a model in with one. Anyway, this year the default panel is a 14-inch OLED. It is bright at over 400 nits and color accurate. It has a high resolution of 2880 by 1800 pixels and offers 120Hz fast refresh rate. By the way, if you are comparing this laptop to the Spectre 14 or Asus ZenBook 14 for 2024, this laptop's OLED panel is a decent amount brighter than theirs. On the negatives, like many OLED panels that we've recently tested, PWM is used at all brightness levels, including 100%. And even though this display is not a touchscreen, we still notice some kind of screen door effect when staring at a white background. You can just see lots of tiny coloured dots if you really stare at it. And these issues, by the way, occurred on both of our X1 Carbon 12th Gen models. I wouldn't say that either make the laptop unusable, but people who are sensitive to these kind of issues, you may want to purchase a different laptop. The keyboard is definitely different this year, most noticeably the layout. ThinkPads have traditionally had the function and control key swapped from a normal keyboard. This year they have finally done away with that and gone with a regular layout. I like this a lot. The first thing I used to do with every ThinkPad that I've owned is open Lenovo's Vantage software to swap those keys to a regular one. For purist ThinkPad keyboard lovers, don't worry, you can use the same software to swap them back. There are other layout changes too. The power button, by the way, has been moved from above the keyboard deck to the right side of the laptop. Normally, this isn't ideal as you may mispress it when you hold the laptop. This power button though is a little indented, so it shouldn't be an issue. And the fingerprint reader, which used to be in the power button, is now its own button. It replaces the dedicated print screen button at the bottom of the keyboard. I like having the fingerprint reader here as it's just more convenient. You see, the laptop does have Windows Hello facial recognition, but I found the fingerprint reader to be faster. You continue to have the same dedicated page up, down, home and end keys that many people love. I complain a lot about weird keyboard layouts which causes me to mispress keys. For example, on MSI's keyboard, the page up and down keys are nestled right up against the arrow keys, which definitely causes me to mishit them. On this keyboard though, there is at least some spacing, so yes, I do still mispress the page up and down keys, but it's not as bad. When it comes to the keyboard's comfort, ThinkPads have a reputation for being the best. This year's is a good keyboard, but for a premium laptop there are better ones out there, like HP's new Spectre 14. For example, you will notice the keys bottoming out when you press them, and they do have an ever so slight wiggle to them. An improvement though is that pressing the keys no longer has them sink below the keyboard deck. On last year's ThinkPad, you could feel the edge of the deck as you press down the keys. Unfortunately, the keyboard's backlight doesn't seem to shine right through the keys' characters, so it's very hard to tell which is which in a darker environment. The only way that we knew the backlight was even on was due to the light shining from around the bottom of the keys. This was not an issue with last year's model. Trackpad. The trackpad is larger this year. It's a full centimetre wider and a couple of millimetres taller. To make room for this, Lenovo has shrunk the left and right buttons on top of the trackpad, the ones that the red trackpoint users use. ThinkPads have always had smaller trackpads than comparable laptops to make room for those buttons. So the additional space is very welcome. But it's still a smaller trackpad, and I found it a little annoying because my fingers just kept hitting the buttons at the top of the trackpad. Personally, I think the red trackpoint is outdated and should be removed. You see, this trackpad is very accurate with no palm rejection issues, so I think there's really no need for it. Look, back in the day when PC trackpad sucked, it made sense. But right now, keeping it in this laptop, it just makes the experience worse for the majority of buyers who don't use it. Ports. The port selection and speeds are the same this year. 2 fast Thunderbolt 4 ports that both support charging, an HDMI 2.1 port, 2 USB-A 5GB ports, a headphone mic combo jack, and an optional SIM card slot. Port layout though has changed slightly, with the HDMI port now being placed at the back right side of the laptop. I like this as it's more out of the way. But talking about keeping cables out of the way, I don't like that both charging capable ports are on the left side. If your outlet is on the right side, you'll have to run a cable around the back, and that could get in your way. Let's talk about the webcam. The 1080 webcam seems to be unchanged. Video and audio quality about the same. However, the new model's colors are off. They may be vibrant, but they're actually less accurate. As a business-focused laptop with everyone sitting on Zoom calls all day, this laptop should have a better webcam, especially given all the space that is now available on the new larger lip. Talking of Zoom calls, if you are on the loo while on one, make sure to use the physical privacy shutter. Upgradability. The laptop's internals have been completely redesigned, and it appears to have a more robust cooling solution than last year's, even though it's still a small laptop and these really are tiny fans. The SSD is replaceable, and it appears there is a spare short-form M.2 slot available for adding a second SSD. The memory unfortunately continues to be soldered and not upgradable. Performance of this laptop is not its strong suit. Overall, in benchmarks, its performance is improved when compared to last year's model. Then again, our unit from last year had one of the lower powered processors available. However, it underperforms other laptops in 2024 with this processor, especially when compared to something like HP's new Spectre 14. The main issue is when you run the laptop in its default balance mode. On that mode, it is just not that snappy, even in light tasks. Heck, I couldn't even play a game of League of Legends on it because it was just way too stuttery. And that game is very old and does not require a lot of performance. Now, let's take a deeper look at the benchmarks to see what's going on. In balance mode, this laptop does have a high initial burst of around 55 watts, but it quickly throttles down to only 18. Likely because Lenovo wants to keep operating temperatures and fan noise to a minimum on that mode, which they do succeed at. This explains why this laptop performs so well in Geekbench. That benchmark comprises of a lot of short-running tasks, but in Cinebench, which runs one long continuous task, this laptop does not perform that well, and this mirrors why this laptop performs so poorly in League of Legends when on balance mode. That game is one long continuous performance task. This means you're left with a bad choice when it comes to performance. You can either run the laptop on balance mode and enjoy how cool and quiet it runs, but it won't be that fast. Or you can run the laptop on its performance mode and get decent performance, but it will feel hot and you will hear fan noise. We ended up getting a second unit in and reran all our benchmarks just to be sure.
It was not a fun day for Taylor.
The result was unchanged. When on battery power, this laptop can be run at full performance. Now, if you do that, which by the way, I don't recommend as it will drain your battery, you will, what is the actual result what we're saying? Yeah. Okay, this part's What we mean to say is that when we ran Cinebench on a loop for 30 minutes with the laptop on battery power, this laptop had 62% remaining. This is better than last year and about what you'd expect for an Intel laptop with a battery this size. For a more realistic battery test, we played a movie on Netflix on repeat over Wi-Fi for 4 hours. At the end of the test, we had 66% remaining, indicating about 12 hours of battery life for this use case. This is a massive improvement from last year's model. We did test the laptop's compatibility with Linux using both Ubuntu 22.04 and 23.10. It was rough. We couldn't change the display's brightness. It literally didn't even appear as an option in settings. Sound also did not work and neither did Wi-Fi. The latter really surprised me as this laptop has an Intel Wi-Fi card and normally those are compatible out of the box with Linux. Anyway, expect a decent amount of tinkering if you're planning to run Linux on this laptop. And on the topic of Wi-Fi, it's disappointing that this laptop comes with Wi-Fi 6E and not the latest Wi-Fi 7. Pricing is a disgrace. The model I bought with a Core Ultra 7 155H processor OLED panel, 16GB of memory and 512GB of storage has an MSRP of over $2,300. And the model with 32GB of memory is around $2,700. Can we just take a moment to absorb how laughable this pricing is? And this really leads me to my conclusion. This redesigned ThinkPad X1 Carbon for 2024 is a solid step forward for people doing light tasks, like office work. It is more portable as it's now smaller and lighter. It does have a better display, it has longer battery life, and it has better speakers. Heck, in this capacity, I really enjoyed using it. And I'd probably buy one for myself. But its pricing right now is beyond ridiculous. In fact, the only people who should probably buy it right now are YouTubers reviewing it for you guys, which is why we bought it. You see, for a fraction of the price of this laptop, you can buy the Asus ZenBook 14 from 2023, which gives you 80 to 90% of what this one is. Now, Lenovo is notorious for pricing their laptops at a high MSRP, then dropping them massively on sales. So if you do want this laptop, just wait for it to drop to around $1,300 to $1,600 US. Depending on the configuration, at that price point, it will be a fair price and competitive with other premium 14-inch laptops. And the place to go to find the best price on this laptop and all the laptops we recommend is our new website, so go check that out, link down below. Now, if you are considering buying this laptop for programming, I definitely wouldn't. This laptop is just not a high-performance machine. You'd be better off with HP's new Spectre 14 or the MacBook Pro 14, which funnily enough is priced similar to this one. And the MacBook Pro 14 in particular, it'll run circles around this laptop when it comes to performance. If you do have your heart set on a ThinkPad or a Lenovo, get subscribed as we have videos coming on their new T14, T14S and Yoga Pro 14. Smash the like button to show your support for the channel. Until next time, go do something awesome with your day and I will catch you later.